You have something important to do right now. You've known about it for days. The deadline is real. The stakes are real. And yet here you are, doing literally anything else. Checking an app you checked 4 minutes ago. Reorganizing a drawer. Reading the back of a shampoo bottle. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a voice is saying, "What is wrong with me?" Nothing. That's the short answer. But the real answer is stranger, and it starts with the fact that almost everything you've been told about procrastination is wrong. The most common explanation: you procrastinate because you're lazy, or undisciplined, or you just don't care enough. This has the advantage of being simple and the disadvantage of being almost entirely false. Researchers who study procrastination for a living have found that it has almost nothing to do with laziness and almost everything to do with emotion. Here's what's actually happening. You're not avoiding the task. You're avoiding the feeling the task produces. Think about the last thing you seriously procrastinated on. A difficult conversation. Project with unclear expectations. In almost every case, when you get close to starting, something uncomfortable shows up. Anxiety that you might do it wrong. Boredom. A vague dread you can't quite name. And your brain, being very good at its actual job, steers you away from that feeling. This is the key insight. Procrastination is a mood regulation strategy. A bad one with terrible long-term consequences, but in the short term it works perfectly. You feel uncomfortable, you pick up your phone, you feel slightly better. The brain registers. That worked. Do it again next time. A researcher named Fuschia Sirois at the University of Sheffield found that chronic procrastinators don't have weaker willpower than everyone else. They have stronger emotional sensitivity to tasks they find threatening. The avoidance isn't a character flaw. It's a coping mechanism. Your brain has two systems constantly in negotiation. The limbic system is ancient, fast, and only cares about how things feel right now. It is not interested in your deadlines. It wants comfort, and it wants it immediately. The prefrontal cortex handles planning and long-term thinking. It knows the deadline matters. Can imagine you 6 months from now wishing you'd started today. In a procrastinator, the balance tips. The limbic system gets louder. The prefrontal cortex gets quieter. Future you gets completely overruled by present you, the one who just wants to feel okay right now. This is why telling a procrastinator to just do it is roughly as useful as telling an anxious person to just relax. The instruction has no mechanism. It doesn't give you anything to do with the actual problem. Your brain has formed a strong association between this task and feeling bad. So what actually works? The first is temptation bundling, a concept from behavioral scientist Katie Milkman. You pair something you want to do with something you need to do. Only listen to a podcast you love while doing the thing you're avoiding. Only go to the coffee shop you enjoy while working on the project you keep putting off. You hack the mood regulation mechanism that was causing the problem. The second is shrinking the task until starting feels genuinely easy. Not work on the project. Open the document. Not go to the gym. Put on gym clothes. Research on implementation intentions shows that the more specifically you define the first tiny action, the dramatically more likely you are to take it. The third surprises people most. The self-compassion. A study led by Wohl at Carleton University found that students who forgave themselves for procrastinating on one exam were significantly less likely to procrastinate on the next one. Not the ones who punished themselves harder. The ones who let themselves off the hook. Why? Because self-criticism is itself an aversive feeling. When you tell yourself you're a failure for avoiding something, you make the task even more threatening. You pile guilt on top of the anxiety that was already there. Your limbic system becomes even more determined to steer you away. There's something almost ironic here. Procrastination is treated as a sign you don't care enough. But the research suggests the opposite. Procrastinators tend to care intensely. They care so much about doing the thing well, or fear the judgment if they do it badly, that the task becomes almost too heavy to touch. Piers Steel at the University of Calgary found that the highest predictor of procrastination isn't laziness. It's perfectionism paired with low confidence. Wanting to do it right while doubting whether you can is one of the most reliable engines of avoidance ever discovered. So the voice asking, "What is wrong with me?" is pointing at the wrong diagnosis. It's not that you don't care. It's that you care about the wrong thing at the wrong moment, how this feels right now instead of how it will feel later. Starting is almost always the hardest part. Once you're inside the task, the discomfort fades. The project that felt impossible from the couch becomes ordinary once you're actually doing it. The Zeigarnik effect describes how the brain becomes more engaged with tasks once they're in progress. Started things pull us forward. The hardest moment isn't the middle. It's the 2 seconds just before you begin. The gap between you and the person you want to be isn't a character flaw. It's approximately 2 minutes of tolerable discomfort.